The key refused to turn, and I stood frozen on my own porch, confused and frustrated. What should have been a simple twist had become a maddening puzzle. At first, I blamed the mountain air. Maybe it had warped the wood or rusted the mechanism. But the truth hit me in the gut. The lock had been replaced. The old weather-worn hardware I'd known for years was gone, replaced with a shiny new brass deadbolt. Peering through the cabin's window, I saw movement inside. Not just one person, several. Luggage was scattered across the living room floor like someone was settling in, like they owned the place. "Excuse me," a sharp voice snapped behind me. I turned to see Karen Whitfield striding toward me, her heels crunching on the gravel. She was the vice president of the HOA, always perfectly dressed like she was about to step onto a country club runway. But now she was clearly rattled, face pale, eyes darting. "What are you doing here?" she asked, breathless. Before I could respond, I realized this needed context. So let me back up. I'm Marcus Chun. The cabin in question? Mine. Nestled in Pine Ridge Estates, a gated mountain community a few hours from the city. It's a modest 2-bedroom A-frame that I inherited from my grandfather. I use it a handful of times a year to disconnect from work and decompress in nature. The HOA came with the property. Not my preference, but unavoidable. Karen had been VP for 2 years and ran the place like her personal fiefdom. She fined residents for tiny infractions. Grass a bit too long, mulch not brown enough, even tried to ban wind chimes for being too disruptive to the mountain atmosphere. I'd managed to avoid her radar mostly by not being there often enough to attract attention. My place is tucked at the end of Whispering Pines Lane, bordered by national forest, and blissfully secluded. That morning I'd driven up for a quiet long weekend, to prep the place for winter and enjoy the autumn trails. The drive had been peaceful with fresh air and falling leaves. I'd even swung by Murphy's General Store and chatted with old Bill Murphy about the early frost. Now here I was locked out. My peaceful escape had turned into a bizarre confrontation. "You're not supposed to be here," Karen blurted, clearly trying to collect herself. "According to our records." "Records show what?" I cut her off, doing my best to keep my voice even while my pulse pounded. Inside, a man approached the door and opened it. He looked to be in his 30s, confused but calm. A woman and 2 children lingered behind him, clearly watching the standoff. "Can I help you?" he asked, glancing between me and Karen. "I'm Marcus Chun," I said, extending a hand. "I own this cabin." His face twisted in disbelief. "That can't be. We rented this place for the week through mountainretreats.com. Paid $2,000 for it." My chest tightened. "You rented this from who?" He pulled out his phone. "Here. Pine Ridge Luxury Cabin, managed by KW Property Solutions. KW. Karen Whitfield." I turned to her and sure enough, she had already started stepping backward. "There's been a misunderstanding," she stammered. "Just a small error with our property management system. If we could speak in private." "No," I said flatly. "We're handling this right here. You changed the locks and rented out my cabin without my consent." The family inside was listening now, especially the kids. David, the man at the door, looked from Karen to me, clearly trying to piece things together. "This isn't a real rental?" he asked, voice rising. "It is," Karen said quickly. "Perfectly legitimate. The HOA has the authority to manage abandoned properties. Section 12, subsection 4 of the bylaws." "Abandoned?" I barked. "I was here in August. I pay my dues. My taxes. How the hell is this abandoned?" Karen straightened her blazer, trying to regain her footing. "Your property has failed to meet occupancy standards. Empty homes bring down values. They attract pests, wildfires. It's a danger to the community." "That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard," I snapped. "And more importantly, it's illegal. I'm calling the sheriff." Karen's face drained of color. "That won't be necessary. Let's not make this into something it doesn't have to be. We'll refund the parks." But David wasn't buying it. "We drove 6 hours to get here. Took time off. My kids were counting on this. Now you're telling me we're part of some unauthorized rental scheme." While Karen tried to calm him down, I stepped away and dialed 911. The dispatcher promised a deputy would be on the way. Then I called my attorney, Janet Rodriguez. She answered immediately, impressive considering it was Saturday. Janet, you're not going to believe this, I said, launching into the story. I could almost hear her smiling. She'd been waiting for a reason to challenge the HOA ever since they fined her sister for curtains that were too bright. As I ended the call, a sheriff's vehicle pulled up. Deputy Mike Harrison stepping out to assess the scene. A sizable crowd had formed as curious neighbors stepped outside to witness the scene. Karen, never one to back down alone, had summoned backup in the form of Brad Tompkins, the HOA president and a real estate developer who treated the neighborhood association like his own private club. But even Brad looked uneasy as I laid out the situation for Deputy Harrison. "Let me get this straight," the deputy said, flipping open his notebook. "Ms. Whitfield changed the locks on Mr. Chen's cabin without his permission, then leased it to another family?" Before I could respond, Karen jumped in. "The HOA has the authority." Brad cut her off sharply. "Karen, what exactly did you do?" He had subtly stepped away from her. She straightened up, full of misplaced confidence. "I initiated the vacant property management plan we discussed at the last board meeting. These cabins stay unused most of the year. I just found a better use for them." "We talked about the concept," Brad replied cautiously. "There was no vote. And we definitely didn't authorize you to change locks or start leasing homes." Deputy Harrison turned to me. "Mr. Chen, do you want to press charges?" "Absolutely," I replied without a second's doubt. Karen looked stunned. "This is absurd. I was doing it for the good of the community. The rental income went into the HOA account." "Oh really?" I asked. "Then why is the listing under KW Property Solutions and not the HOA?" And that's when she made her worst move yet. She tried to walk away. She turned on her heels and made a beeline for her car, as if she could simply escape the consequences. Deputy Harrison didn't even flinch. He raised his voice calmly. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to stop right there." She froze instantly. What followed was a blur. Police reports, statements, confused tenants, and phone calls. The Park family, who had unknowingly rented my cabin, were understandably upset but grateful when I offered to let them stay for the weekend as my guests while they figured things out. I wasn't about to hold them responsible for what Karen had done. As she was being escorted to the patrol car in cuffs, Karen kept insisting it was all a big misunderstanding. "You don't get it," she called out. "I've been doing this for months. The Johnsons' place, the Walkers' cabin, even the Hendersons' house while they were abroad. I was helping." Brad's face went ashen. Did she just admit to running illegal rentals from multiple properties? The investigation that followed, led by Detective Sarah Chun from the County Sheriff's Department, no relation to me, peeled back layers of fraud. Over the past 8 months, Karen had targeted homes that were rarely occupied. She changed locks, fabricated rental listings, and funneled more than $40,000 through a shell company. She forged documents to make it seem like the HOA had approved the changes, maintenance reports, authorization forms, even financial statements. While she did funnel a small portion of the income into the HOA account to lend legitimacy, the bulk went directly into her own pockets. "What's strange," Detective Chin said during a meeting, "is how detailed her records are. Every booking, every forged document. It's like she took pride in how organized her scam was." Once the word got out, more property owners came forward. The Johnsons had been told their home needed fumigation. The Walkers received notice of supposed plumbing emergencies. Karen had crafted each lie with just enough credibility to avoid suspicion, until now. Legally, the consequences were severe. Karen faced 6 counts of unlawful entry, 6 counts of fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. District Attorney Michelle Torres told the local press, "This kind of abuse undermines the public's faith in homeowner associations. When someone entrusted with community responsibility uses that position to essentially steal homes, even temporarily, we prosecute it to the fullest." Karen's attorney tried to argue she genuinely believed she was acting within her authority, but the fake paperwork told a different story. The shell company and diverted funds made it clear she wasn't just misinformed, she was running a scam. I testified about walking into my own cabin to find strangers living there. The Parks shared their experience of being caught in the crossfire. Other homeowners added their stories, each one further eroding Karen's defense. Even Brad took the stand, clearly determined to separate himself and the HOA from her actions. The judge wasn't moved by her excuses. "Ms. Whitfield," he said during sentencing, "you were entrusted with a position of responsibility. Instead, you used your neighbors' homes for your personal gain. Your actions were premeditated, deceptive, and in complete violation of the law." Karen was sentenced to 3 years in state prison, with a chance for parole after 18 months. She was also ordered to pay over $60,000 in restitution, which included legal fees and damages. The look on her face when the sentence was read said everything. She genuinely hadn't believed she'd face real punishment. "3 years," she gasped, gripping the defense table. "But I was trying to help. These houses were just sitting there." The bailiff had to guide her out as she continued to protest. But no one in that courtroom was buying it anymore.